Today we are making this tabletop ornament holder with a spin because these ornaments are made with a hole saw. I am using this 10-inch wide piece of cherry just to mix it up and get outside of using pine for a little bit. Go ahead, set your miter saw over to 15 degrees, make your first pass, and then flip the board over, again 15 degrees, making a second pass. And that is all there is to cutting out your tree. My tree is rather small, it's only 10 inches tall. Again, we are only featuring one ornament in there. If you wanted to build the one where you could have like the 2 ornaments, you know, and it looks all fancy, that's the very popular one. They use like a 12-inch to a 15-inch tall board because then it's going to give you the height required to put those both in there and not make it look cramped. So that guy is done. Everything else we're going to be doing with this video is only requiring hole saws. Now, this hole saw kit I just bought at the big box store. It's like 25 bucks. You get all of the generic sizes. That is what we're going to be using today. To make the ornament, we are going to cut out 2 separate ring sets and then trim off the extra so that they'd stay round together. Very simple to do with a hole saw. With this, what we will be doing is actually taking 2 pieces and marrying them together inside of your arbor. I think this is the arbor, whatever this is called. This piece. So you are going to not be taking 2 sizes up. I am using a 2.5 inch and a 1 3/4 is what I had used. So you will want to either use like these 2 or these 2. These 2, you guys get the idea. So you don't want to actually use whatever the size smaller is going to be because that doesn't leave you a lot of room. And what's going to happen is once you start cutting out that hole saw, because it's rather aggressive, the teeth are pretty big on them, it's just going to rip and shred everything inside your 2 blades. So don't use the next smallest, use the one bigger than that. So it's going to give you a little bit of space so that way it doesn't rip it out and it's going to leave you some actual material to work with. So for that, I am using a 2.5 and the 1 3/4. Now, it does come with the little washer. What the washer does is it goes onto the bottom, so that way once they're done, they're easy to unlock. We are taking this off, so you will need to make some paper ones. If you don't make paper ones, you will struggle to get them apart later on in life. And the next ones I made are way too big. We're going to dial this in, guys. Take a strip of paper, fold it from corner to corner, and then you are just going to be cutting this little section out like so, and that gives you a little spot in the center. I think that's perfect. That is perfect. Cool. And we do it one more time. So you are going to take your arbor, put a piece of paper washer on there, put your bigger size onto him, like so. Take your next paper washer, make sure he is seated over the inside lap. Take your next size, which is him, the 1 3/4. And we're going to lock those together like so. So you come up with this contraption here. Now this just goes straight into your drill. Make sure they don't all unlock when you do that. And we are going to just be taking a scrap piece of wood, and that's where you are going to be drilling out your hole. So you do still have your drill bit as a pilot, and we're just going to drill that out. So I just set my foam board on the ground just so I'm not trying to drill into my floor or hurting my bits by any means. And then go ahead, put your piece of wood onto the ground, and use your hole saw to drill out the 2 sets. With our 2 rings cut out, give them a very light sanding just so it kind of takes some of the burrs and spots off the outside because it is a pain to sand them once you have this contraption. I did have one of my rings kind of split out. That is okay because I will show you in the next step why that doesn't matter. So go ahead, take your ring, get those guys out of here. You are just going to center a board so that we can get the thickness of the board transferred so that we have that to cut away. So go ahead, just line a board up on the top of it, kind of eyeball where the center of it is, and then you're going to go ahead and mark both of the sides here. Now that we have our lines, that is the section that we are going to be removing, so that way it keeps its cylindrical shape. I'm going to do so at the bandsaw. If you guys don't have a bandsaw, you can just as easily go ahead and get a handsaw and get those lines cut out as well. You're here, where you should be. The snow is falling as the carols sing. alone on Christmas Day. With our pieces cut out, I'm just going to use a little bit of super glue and some instant bond here and get them squared away. So we are going to be gluing it to here and to here to make our round object. I apply a little bit of glue right to here. Pretty generous just because I want it to soak in a little bit since it is an end grain. So go ahead and give that just a second. And then using instant bond, we are going to line our grains up. Give it a little bit of pressure for just a couple seconds. There is a one. And then same thing goes for this guy, a little bit of glue. Let them soak for a second. And then spraying these. Now this one, I do want to make sure I line up with this guy. So he's going to go right here. And right there. A little bit of pressure. Give him a second. To loosen this guy when we are done, go ahead and just loosen up this screw in the bottom. Take out your pilot. And then what we're going to be doing, see mine's not even locked together. So if they are stuck, what you can do is put this guy on, put a wrench on him, line it up with the spot, and then smack it with the mallet to just kind of crack him loose. And then once he is loose, and then it'll loosen up like that. Now we're going to drill out for our ornaments. I'm going to do one in the center and one offset just so you guys could see both. I was cutting one of these out and I had a spot that a little bit of a knot clicked out. So he is going to be where it's going to be off center. This guy will be my center, but I really like this spot on him. So I don't know. I'm going to lose him. There's no way around it. So go ahead, grab that 2.5-inch hole saw. That's the one that we use to cut out the ornament, and we are going to place where we want them on the trees. Just note that the pilot does need to actually make contact with your board, because if the pilot is floating out on the side, your hole saw is going to be jumping around. It's going to just ruin this piece of wood. If you guys do want to drill a hole that is kind of off on the side so it's not touching anything, you can use one of those cutouts that you had before, clamp it down, and then that will give you a spot so that your hole saw kind of can't move away from where you want it to be drilled out. However, if you do not have the piloted center in the board somewhere, the ornament is going to be harder to get actually mounted to hang inside your tree. If that makes sense. So I did go ahead and do mine over this little spot, so that way my pilot is in there. And then this guy, I am going to just kind of roughly center in. I really wanted to keep that, but I guess I'm not. So I'm going to go right here. I just make a little dot of a spot where I want this to go. Just how I do it. So now when you reinstall it, go ahead, put that washer back on the bottom. So it does make those easier to unlock. And then again, going to the ground, I'm going to go ahead and drill out both of those. Okay, real talk, it's been a minute since I drilled out the holes because I tried to figure out how to get this guy to go into here and also spin around. Sweet. So once your holes are drilled out, you can go ahead and use this cutout as a base. Same with the cutout that came actually when you cut the rings. So that is going to be a base as well. I am just going to flip-flop them because I like how this is big and that's small, and then this looks like it does because I like this one more. So to get the little spinny tree part, what we're going to do is actually go ahead and use a drill bit, drill out the top and bottom of each of the ornaments. Then we're going to take a drill bit, and you can use the same one if you wanted to. And what we are going to do is actually just go ahead and sink in this guy on its own. So I'm going to find the center, give them light pressure, and manually drill out this little spot. Takes a little bit of pressure, so give me just a sec. It ain't too bad. Just do a little, I mean like 1/8 of an inch is all we need for this guy. And then we're going to go ahead and do that same exact thing on the top. Now I'm going to take two just little trim nails, and I cut them off so that they're not as long. So I don't want them to be an inch long, because I'd have to figure out how to drive that into my project. No thanks. So I cut off a little bit of that, and with my surgical tool, I grabbed the side of it, and I put them inside of here, and I drop them in. I legit drop him in. So since these are just glued, just super glued into place, 100% could do that step last, and then this wouldn't be such a pain to do. So there is that. I just dry fit them before I start going through with the super glue. So this guy's actually a little bit too long. So I don't think you guys would be able to see it, but I want this to be centered, and the nail is sticking up a little bit into here. So I'm going to cut off just a little bit extra from him. Dry fit him again. That is perfect. Then I'm going to try the top out just to see if he is the same. So he needs to be a little bit longer than this nail. And that's shorter. Gotcha. So then again, I'm holding that nail into place. This is where this project just kind of went to ridiculous. And then I'm going to just dry fit him into the top one. Okay, perfect. Now would be a good time to stain. I'm going to do it last because I like a challenge. I don't know if that's the top or the bottom. That's going to be the top. So I'm going to do the top first. So go ahead, just again, take some super glue. We are squirting her generously down into that hole. Making sure there's not air pockets in there. Now, what that is going to actually do, since the nail head is on the inside of our piece, we can secure it down, and then it will stop it from traveling up and down once we are completely done. So he is in place. Again, just taking a little bit of activator spray, really spraying her down in there, and then we hold it for a little while. How's your guys' day going? Mine's all right. And essentially, I just wait for it to dry. That's on this top part. Then I kind of know that the inside's getting close too. And I can feel it firming up. So the nail is getting firm in there. So I honestly could go ahead and let go of it and let it do its thing. And again, push up on this just so it's not hanging on the nail. And then I'm going to attempt to just squirt in some more glue into the bottom hole. No air bubbles. Now I can let him hang. If you guys want to do just one nail, you don't have to do two. I like mine to be the little spinnies. So take some finesse. There we go. Now he is rested in there. And then again, some more spray. Oh, yeah, that hit perfect. That one I don't have to hold. I just need to wait for him to dry. You got a little spinny center. Is that informative? I feel like it wasn't. So again, since the nail head is on the inside, that allows the nail to travel through this into the base and gives it that spin motion. So same with the top nail. You guys really can't see it because of the light. So again, even with the top nail, it's that same thing. So it still allows you to spin, and it gets secured into this little spot right there. Ta-da! Now, the holes that I had just done are pretty tight, so that's actually the kerf of the blade for me. If you guys are wanting to actually implement regular ornaments into these guys, go ahead and make sure that your hole saw is drilling out a little bit larger than the actual hole needed, because you will have to put a small hook up where we had put the top nail. But my little guys, look how adorable. This guy doesn't like to spin that much, but this guy does. Freaking sweet! For the bases, we're almost done. For the bases, we are just gonna go ahead and find the center. I'm just gonna eyeball it, be honest with you. I'm ready to go inside, find me some food. So I'm just gonna kind of eyeball where the dead center of this guy is. I am gonna pilot. And since these guys already have the holes drilled into them, I'm just gonna go ahead and recess it down just a little bit so that screw head actually will rest right below. He's still not there yet. Run your drill in reverse, drill that out, just so he is flush. And then we're gonna do the same thing with this. I like the look of this coming out a lot better than this side, so that's gonna be my bottom. Again, drill in reverse. So the smaller stand is actually going to go onto here. Yeah, I heard cracking that entire time. There's our baby adorable tree. And there's our two finished trees. And then everything changed.